And welcome back to the Hot Lap on this day in F1, 1994, November the 13th. Michael Schumacher, Damon Hill, Adelaide. Oops-a-daisy for Michael Schumacher. Damon Hill, well, he could have won it. He didn't win it. Michael Schumacher won his first World Championship, but it was in, let's say, controversial circumstances. I've got a clip here, well, not a clip, but a clipping from a magazine, obviously scanned online from Motorsport magazine, and it goes, after going on the road on his own, Michael Schumacher ensured his first World Championship in controversial style. All sorts of emotions must have been running through Damon Hill's head as he crept back to the pits on the 36th lap of a scintillating Australian Grand Prix. Few of them printable. After driving his heart out, he had challenged Michael Schumacher every inch of the way in their World Championship fight, only for them both to collide at the East Terrace. And as the world awaited, Hill already knew from the suspension damage that he could see and feel. Though he was mobile and Schumacher no longer was, the dream was over. The German, the cause of the incident, was already world champion. And it goes on to say it was a tragic shame that the great confrontation had to end the way it did, because up until then, the Australian Grand Prix was one of those rare F1 races that grabs you by the throat. In qualifying, there'd been Nigel Mansell. Yes, Nigel Mansell was on this race, in this race. His 32nd pole position, followed immediately by only the third big shunt of Schumacher's career as he overdid things in the Senna chicane, trying to beat the Britain's time. And in their wake, Hill had struggled to third place, unhappy with his Williams setup on Friday, but unable to have a second crack because of rain on Saturday. But on Sunday, Damon Hill was on fire. He pushed Schumacher all the way, pushed him to the limit, some could say, because it was Michael Schumacher that made the mistake and not Damon Hill. I mean, here's a clip. Here we go. This is the moment, or just before it actually happened live, with Murray Walker commentating, MT89 on his YouTube channel. Just sharing this clip here. There we go.
Schumacher's off. Schumacher's lost time. Yeah. Hill goes by.
Oh, out goes Schumacher. The German is out of the Australian Grand Prix. Hill only has to keep going to be world champion of 1994, but can he?
But Damon Hill cannot keep going, as you can see. I mean, he's driving. There's something wrong with his tyres. Schumacher, though, goes in the crowd, and I'll show you in a bit. Where is it? Here, we go on board with Damon Hill, and I'm going to make it full screen. And as you can see on the bottom there, very much the suspension arm is very much broken as he's driving to the pits. Oh, now here's the thing. Was it on purpose? This is the big thing that everyone is talking about. Okay, was it on purpose? Here we go. Here we see the replay of Michael Schumacher. He's coming into the corner here. Yeah, on the left hand, gets it wrong quite clearly, very wrong. And then he smacks the wall hard, donk. I mean, that is quite a hard hit. I don't want to share too much audio with you, but if you listen to the audio, it's definitely a hit.
Goes off. Schumacher's made the mistake. He hits the wall. He's damaged it.
I mean, there you go. He carries on. Now, here's the interesting thing. He's looking straight ahead, okay? And then he's looking straight ahead again. He knows where he's going. And looking straight, and now you can see his mirror. He's just beginning to look in his mirror, and there's Damon Hill, and there's the donk. Yeah, he's looking into his mirror, and then he goes off, and then bang. I mean, and then Damon Hill, he carries on, but alas, the sad thing is, obviously, Damon didn't win that championship. Who deserved it? We'll get into that in a bit, which is quite interesting. This, though, is Damon Hill on, I think in 2009. They were initially talking about the 2008 Singapore controversial Grand Prix. We're not going to get into that here. But he had a few interesting things to say about the 1994 Adelaide collision.
You've been involved in various incidents throughout your career. It was in 1994 when people started to question, hold on a minute, is this a real racing incident, or are we seeing something else? What was your reaction at the time in 1994, Damon, when you were going for the world title against Michael Schumacher here?
Well, I thought it was all my fault. I sort of saw this thing coming up, and I actually saw Michael coming back on the track, and I thought that I didn't see him hit the wall, so I just carried on and thought that I didn't see that bit, you see. If I'd known that, I wouldn't have tried to overtake him. But that was an incident where you could say that's a racing matter, and you know, it would go to a steward's decision. That we're not talking about that. We're talking.
Okay, and then he starts talking about the 2009 bit. But there we go. I thought that was quite interesting. But what is also quite interesting is the opinion of a...
I have the highest regard for Michael Schumacher. He was a stunning driver and a stunning person. And the people who operated with him and knew him as a person, which I didn't, still hold him in the highest regard. But you've got to remember that we had been through, actually it was afterwards with Jacques Villeneuve at Jerez in '97. But anybody who sees the film at what happened at Adelaide could see that Michael's car was damaged in a way that he must have known that it was undrivable. And he started going down the escape road that went straight on from the right-hand corner. And when he could see Damon, who by that time was probably 4 or 5 seconds behind him, he turned right and drove straight into the side of Damon's car. And anybody that knew anything about driving race cars knew that Michael deliberately took Damon out of that race. I don't think I felt totally aggrieved, because with the death of Ayrton Senna, with the fact that Michael was banned from driving for at least 2, maybe 3 races, all of which Damon won, I don't think I'd have felt totally happy with winning the championship in that year.
And that was Patrick Head. Sorry for the audio clip that as I introduced him, but that was Patrick Head, Damon Hill's one of the head engineers, technical director. I don't know what his official title was in 1994, but he was basically second in charge at Williams, only second to the great Frank Williams. And it was Patrick Head, Adrian Newey, and Frank Williams were the trio that obviously helped that car become really good, because at the beginning of the year it was not good at all. Ayrton Senna was not happy at all with the state of that Williams on launch, and was really struggled with the car. This is obviously in spite of getting pole positions and finishing on the podium. So what I thought was quite interesting here, and I think I'm gonna, can I make it bigger with, okay, yeah, is we've got some, I'm gonna try and go full screen here, we've got interesting opinions here on the 1994 Adelaide thing, but taken from the Autosport forum. If you ever like other people's opinions, I'm always fascinated. They're obviously introducing the finish case. Whose fault was it? What do they think in relation to obviously the Schumacher and Hill? They've obviously got the footage. Schumacher goes off, it hit the wall pretty hard. He accelerates. Hill chooses the inside. Schumacher, looking into his right mirror, takes the normal line, while Hill has his front left alongside Schumacher's side pod, so he's well halfway across, and the rest is history. Someone's going, if Michael Schumacher were to be judged by his own standards, then he'd be guilty as charged. He said, he interestingly said, this is at Yelnats, this is all the way in 2001 as well, when Michael accidentally rammed DC in the rain at Spa, he vigorously protested that David was guilty of reckless endangerment because he slowed down while occupying the racing line. Whether this is true is not important here. What does matter is that in Australia, Michael certainly has slowed down drastically after his off-track excursion in Australia, yet he still maintained he had the right to the racing line and that Damon should have taken appropriate avoidance action. I agree with Michael Schumacher's Spa version of reality and believe the racing line is reserved for cars running at racing speeds, and crippled cars have a duty to stay clear. Someone's put, "Is my respectful submission. I asked the court to consider the case. This is a circumstantial case," they said, "as Schumacher has never made an admission of guilt." No, he doesn't. Now, at law, circumstantial evidence is acceptable. It is evidence tending to support the existence or non-existence of a fact that is not one of the elements of the offence charge. Okay, they keep going on. And based on this alone, I submit that Michael Schumacher is guilty of blame. He would lose the world title, and that the emotion he felt as he hit the wall and saw Damon Hill fast approaching. But I wish to add a few facts for consideration. Schumacher risked losing a title and accumulated millions. Michael Schumacher was being pressured by Hill and made an error. Making that driver's error in lapse of mental concentration, fortitude and general nervousness meant the title hopes dashed forever. In a last-ditch effort, he, as the tape clearly shows, made a specific effort to take Damon Hill from the race and did so in remarkable fashion, making a spectacle of the 1994 Drivers' Championship. And if memory serves, he did precisely the same to Jack Villeneuve Esquire and was severely punished for his gross violation. To summarise, And some of it's, I mean, it's definitely worth looking at. What do we think here at the Hot Lap? I think, yes, Michael Schumacher. I don't think it was predetermined. In terms of, I think you've got longer than, I think, 1 or 2 seconds. I do think it was almost kind of like Jerez. I can't help but feel it's kind of almost instinct that he does it almost in like a desperation. Oh no, I'm going to do this because you see people do that on racing games, albeit I know it's completely different, but how many people do it on racing games? You get frustrated at you potentially winning a corner and then hit you out anyway, in what is definitely blatantly dirty driving. This is just this on a completely different level. Should Damon Hill have won the championship? I mean, that's the interesting thing. Michael Schumacher, throughout 1994, was no doubt the better driver. And there was some controversy about the Benetton using traction control, which the FIA did suspect, which is why they were so harsh on them, banning them for a number of races, and those races are the ones which Damon Hill won. And without that, Michael Schumacher would have won the championship way before. We saw that in 1995. I think even Damon admits that Michael Schumacher is the better driver. But here's the but. That didn't happen. And, Schumacher didn't have all of those races. I think he had about 12, 13 or something out of the 16 in the end. But on the day, just like in Japan when it mattered, Damon Hill's best race, I think, where he beat Michael Schumacher in the wet. And on that day, he was better than Michael Schumacher. On this day in Adelaide, on the day he had appeared, Schumacher made the mistake, potentially damaged his car, was maybe going to retire. Damon Hill did not see that. He went for the overtake because he thought that's going to be his only chance, and Schumacher appeared to turn in on him. So on that day, Damon Hill did deserve the 94 world title, because on the day in question, the day it mattered, Hill was the one that beat Schumacher. Although Schumacher drove better all year, you could argue that both deserved it, but on the day, Damon Hill had Schumacher beaten on that day in Adelaide, not obviously throughout the whole season. And it would have been really interesting to see from 1994 onwards how the two careers would have progressed. Maybe there is a parallel universe where Damon Hill is at least a 2-time champion. Would it have made the confidence for Hill from 94 going into 95, where he had a shocking season, would that have built his confidence enough for a decent title fight? Because Schumacher dominated in that 94 season. But that's just essentially my 2 cents of it. But yeah, 13th of November 1994, I believe, Michael Schumacher won his first world championship. This has been the Hot Lap. Like if you like the video, subscribe if you want to see more. Comment below. I will get to that. I get to pretty nearly all the comments. It might take a while, but I promise I'll try. And thank you. If you made it to the end, you are a champion. If you like and subscribe, you are a multiple world champion. We'll speak to you next time. Thank you very much.